Well, hey, you guys. So I recently came across some data about the average American's financial status. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't like comparison culture, but on some level, awareness about what's going on in the state of personal finance for other people out there could be really helpful to you. So, how about we just take a moment and do a little financial wellness checkup together? And I'll share some up-to-date stats. Think about the average level of debt that people have, the average salary, all of that. And it'll give you a chance to see how you measure up against the rest of America when it comes to money. And maybe this will be an encouragement to you because you may need to be reminded that, hey, I am making good progress with my money. You gotta say that every now and then. Or maybe you might say, well, okay, I need a little bit more motivation here to get in control of my money and do this plan. But whatever the case is, do not worry, because at the end, I'm gonna share some practical tips to get you moving in the right direction. And remember, the averages that I'm sharing with you represents the middle point of all the data taken. Remember, average is different than median, that is different, right? Like we go back to our elementary school days that we can remember. So also know that your numbers, could be higher, could be lower. Regardless, do not beat yourself up. Again, you're not going to get me yelling at you or something. So I don't want you to feel discouraged. Again, this is just to kind of see, hey, where do I measure up against the average state in America? So let's just try to keep an open mind and look at these numbers as rough guidelines, not hard rules, because we are all on different financial journeys and at different places, okay? So let's start with salary. So the average annual salary in the U.S. is $61,900. And remember, your income is your most powerful wealth building tool. So think about kind of just where you fall, above average, below average, around average. And do you feel like you're at a place where you're able to use your income to build wealth? And what I mean by that is that you say, yeah, okay, here's my income. Here's what I'm paid every month. And are you able to live below your means? Are you able to have some margin to maybe pay off debt? Or maybe you're debt-free and all that income is yours and you get to decide, hey, how am I going to save it or invest it or give it or spend it? So again, your salary is a really big part of this equation because your income is going to help you build wealth. Next is debt levels. So now that we have an idea of how much the average person makes, let's look at debt. Personal debt in the U.S. is at an all-time high of $17.5 trillion. Trillion with a T. And on average, each adult has $66,772 in debt. And this includes everything from credit cards to student loans. So take a second, let that sink in, kind of compare where you're at. And again, the average debt in America you're going to see is all these different buckets of debt, okay? And so I do want you to think that, hey, maybe you've been on this journey for a while. Some of you that have been following, my channel or my podcast, or you've been, following the Ramsey Way for a bit, you are out of debt. And maybe you have your fully funded emergency fund and you're like, okay, yeah, this is feeling good. So just knowing your average is really helpful. So when you look at each specific debt, this is what gets interesting. So credit card debts, the average person carries $6,501 in credit cards. 8 out of 10 adults in America have at least one credit card. Anyways, this is a slippery slope. This is a thing that, I feel like this is the one area I'm like, get up your credit cards, and everyone's like, I'm going to keep one, or I'm going to use mine for my points. So listen, there's a game out there to be played, and people are like, yeah, I get free hotels, I get free flights, I get to travel, cash back, like whatever it is, the game that they play, I get it. Okay, I hear people say it, and I get it, but only to a point, because everyone's like, well, I pay it off every month, so it's fine. But what we're seeing over and over again is that that's been people's mindset, but yet they're not paying it off every month, which means they are paying interest, and interest is so high on credit cards. It's like up to 22.6% APR. It is wild. So you are paying interest on top of this, which is how banks make money. So remember that. Banks are making money off of fees and interest. And so while you feel like you're playing an airline game, you're actually making the banks rich. So getting rid of credit cards, in my opinion, is the way to go. All right, car loans. So around 35% of households have a car loan, and they each owe, on average, $36,357. And when you look at monthly payments, the average for a new car is $738. The average for a used car is $532. I mean, a new car, y'all, almost $750. Like, that's a lot of money. And when you're living paycheck to paycheck, that will change your life. That changes your budget if you have an extra $750. And so this is where the conversation with the car has to come into play. And a lot of people in this world of personal finance, I'll read different books or listen to other people in podcasts or interviews because I'm always just curious what people think. And it is funny. The number one thing we can all agree with, because sometimes we can disagree with credit cards or student loans or mortgages or investment real estate or whatever. The one thing that is consistent across the board of majority of people out there teaching about personal finance is that the car loan is a ripoff to the average American. It just is. Like, you are borrowing money, paying interest on something that's going down in value just because it's a car. And listen, a crappy car, a $5,000-$6,000 car can get you to the same place you got to go as a $60,000 car, right? Now, I understand it is nice. And if you have the money and you want a great car, that's what you choose to spend your money on, fantastic. But don't go into debt for it, because on a mathematical basis, it does not make sense. It doesn't in a car. So say no to the car loan. If you cannot pay your car off in 18 to 24 months, I want you to get rid of your car. If your car loan is more than half of your annual income, you have too much car, okay? So these are times that you're gonna have to sell your car. If you're underwater, you may have to take out a small loan to get out of the car payment. But listen, all of that is worth it. If you get a loan for the difference and maybe a couple $1,000s more to buy another car, and then start there. I would rather have a $8,000 loan than a $38,000 loan, right? So there is something powerful about not having that car payment and for that $750 to be yours and not the bank's. All right, the next piece of debt that is very common is the mortgage. And this is a big one because this does take up a big bulk of people's monthly expenses. And in fact, the mortgage accounts for 70% of all American debt. The average mortgage in the U.S. is $145,833 with a monthly payment of $2,006. So just ask yourself, hey, how does my mortgage fit with these numbers? It's a really great question. And the price of homes since 2021, 2022, it has just skyrocketed, and it has pretty much stayed there. It has not gone back down. And so it is frustrating for first-time home buyers for sure, because stuff is just so expensive. But you guys, this is a part of your finances. You want to be really wise. So if you have the money and you're in a good position where you're like, yeah, I have, 20% to put down, 5% to put down. Your mortgage is around, 25% of your take-home pay. You're able to do it in a wise way. Go ahead and get into the markets. But if you're not there, it may take you a little bit longer to do that. But those parameters really allow your mortgage, your house, your rent even to be a blessing, not a curse. But there's going to be some hard decisions to make within that. And it's so frustrating, I know. All right, before we move on to even more stats, I want to take a quick break to tell you about one of our sponsors. So as parents, we know it's not always easy to make sure that our kids stay away from online content that we don't want them to see. So let me just tell you about a solution. True Play Games. True Play is one app with lots of entertaining faith-based games, videos, and more, all created to help reinforce biblical values and build character. There are no in-app purchases, no chat rooms, and no ads, meaning no unpleasant surprises. TruePlay turns screen time into stress-free time for mom and dad. So go to trueplaygames.com/Rachel now and get 20% off an annual subscription with promo code Rachel20. That's true, TRU, playgames.com/Rachel. All right, let's get into some more stats, shall we? So student loans. Did you know that student loans are the fastest growing debt in America? So according to recent data, the average borrower owes $38,290 in student loans. And it's not just about the money, but many young adults say because of the weight of student loans that they are not making basic financial life decisions, things like investing in retirement, buying a home, or even getting married. So if you have looming student loans and you have not paid them off, you are not alone, but also I want you to get motivated to pay them off because, again, this is one piece of debt that can just hang around for years and years and years. So getting out of this and paying it off is so key. All All right, let's look at savings and investing. And so this is really planning for the future. And since this number is the average American overall and doesn't consider a few different factors, instead of just giving you all the stats for this, I want to approach it a little differently because how much you have in savings really revolves around your current situation. So I want you to get a good idea of what this should be. So I'm going to link an article in the description to kind of give you some guidelines and walk you through some questions because this is a really personalized estimate because it's going to be a percentage of what you make or 3 to 6 months of expenses that should be saved and that kind of thing. So it's really going to be dependent upon you on what you should be doing. Now, for investing, it's hard to compare averages on something that grows significantly through your lifetime. But if you're interested in estimating how much progress you could make down the road, make sure to check out Ramsey's investment calculator. It will give you a great idea on where you're headed. And so savings and investing, again, this has to be a part of your financial plan. And it is going to help you. I mean, it really is. There's something there when you have cushion in life. It is just gives you peace. It does. All right. So I know that's a lot of info. Hope you're doing okay. Hope that you're looking at your own numbers. You're not feeling overwhelmed though. But I really want to walk you through some actionable steps to help you get out of debt and start to build wealth. So again, the baby steps is what we always talk about. So you want to start our emergency fund of $1,000. Next, you want to get out of debt by paying off your smallest debt to your largest debt. Then you're going to save up 3 to 6 months of expenses in an emergency fund. And once you do all of that, then you're going to say, hey, I'm going to, really work on investing 15% of my income into retirement and kids' college, paying the house off early and all of it. So these things are really going to help you get into a place financially that is going to be above and beyond what the average American is doing. Because again, you're being intentional with your money. So remember, you are not alone, you all. You've got this, I promise. And putting some steps into place, again, is going to be so crucial to finding financial peace and getting yourself above average, if you will, versus just the average American. And remember, all of this stuff, it doesn't define you. Whatever your numbers are, you can always choose to make different decisions with your money. And I know, again, it can feel like it's really difficult at first, but I really want to encourage you that you can do this. So I'm going to leave a link for some more tools and resources just to get you started because I really think this is important stuff. And if you want to make sure to check out my video on how to become financially smarter than 40% of people, make sure to do that next. All right, you guys, remember to take control of your money and create a life you love.